From the Oak Wall Studios in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Hello, this is Jesse Oakley III, and welcome to the Oak Zone. Today is Sunday morning, and it is time for the Sunday Morning Chat Series. It is a chance where I get to interview positive people that are making a big difference in the community. And today, we got ourselves a fantastic show. Now, I happen to run across a certain person that's doing something positive for the community, and I was highly impressed because I believe we're both in Toastmasters, and she gave a dynamic speech at the semifinals for the World Champion of Public Speaking. And I thought, you know what? This is a good person to interview. And ever since that moment, she has so been on my radar for positive, making a big difference in the community. And I'm just excited and delighted to actually interview this lovely lady right here. And please help me welcome none other than fellow friend and Toastmaster, Samantha Smith. Hey, Samantha, how's it going?
Jesse, good morning. I'm doing well. I'm grateful to be here. Grateful for the opportunity to have some fun with you this morning and knock out some of these questions and get some talking going. So I'm excited.
All right, I love it. And thank you for having me. I'm sure the happy people out there will enjoy this interview. And without further delay, let's chat.
Yes.
All right, now I know that you had a great speech within the semifinals, and I enjoyed it for once. And could you tell if there's some people out there that haven't seen the speech yet, they may want to go to Toastmasters and get the on demand. But when it comes to your speech, how did you come up with your speech topic?
So for me, if you've heard my speech, then you know I used to be a police officer. And obviously I have lots of stories, right? From my times on the street, crazy stories, funny stories, some sad stories, and kind of all in between. But when I thought about something that I wanted to bring forth that would be impactful, as you know, in Toastmasters, most of our speeches usually fall in that motivational category or that impactful category. And I think for me, it was about trying to step out of the boxed in norm, or what I would call the cookie cutter kind of speech, and really go for something that could positively affect the folks that would be hearing it. And so I chose something that was a little controversial, right? Talking about the LGBTQIA plus community, bringing in my law enforcement background and kind of bringing it all together in an umbrella over, suicide and tragedy and law enforcement. And again, the LGBTQIA plus community, and bringing it all together. So my topic really came from trying to find something that I was passionate about, but also something that would have a positive impact on the folks that would be hearing it.
All right. Again, fantastic effort. And that was highly impressive. Really appreciate that. Now, we talked about the impact and the inspiration for your speech. Why do you think it was very important for you to give such a personal speech?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually originally from Brooklyn, New York. I reside outside of Houston, Texas now with my wife and our children. And it's a very different environment here. Although Houston is extremely diverse, unfortunately, when you start going into the smaller towns, things are a little bit different. And being the way that I look, I've faced many moments of discrimination. And I speak of that in my speech, not only for myself, but also for what my wife endured. She's originally from Moldova in the USSR. Mm-hmm. And her culture, her dynamics, her family, her upbringing was not very accepting. And so when I thought about an opportunity to take a speech all the way to the international stage, which I'm so grateful that I was able to get that far, an opportunity where hundreds of thousands of people can hear something that can truly impact them. I think we live in a world, unfortunately, that folks don't get to hear about this stuff. There's plenty of smaller, boxed in locations that they don't know anybody that's gay. They don't know anybody who's a part of the community. They've never heard these stories. They don't understand the depths of mental health issues with our LGBTQIA youth community, the increased suicide rate amongst our transgender families. So all of these things kind of came into effect when I said, this is why I need to give this speech. It's important to be heard. It's important to speak for those who no longer have a voice and who no longer are able to speak. And that's where the passion came through. That's why I said, although it's, what some may call controversial or, kind of a little edgy, because again, I'm not talking about my grandma and I'm not talking about winning the race. And I say that with no disrespect to those speakers who bring forth those speeches. There were some amazing speeches. I just wanted to step out of that box. I wanted to bring something that I feel like so many people around the world on that international stage are not exposed to. And my hope is that in doing so, it maybe crack that door open just a little bit to open up that dialogue, to have some truly hearty conversations about what is going on in our world, what's going on with our community, and how we can be a little bit more accepting and simply just spread love for each other, because truly lives are depending on that. And so that's kind of what drove me forth in wanting to do the speech and the topic that I chose.
And I'll tell you what, some talking from a person who happens to be in an interracial relationship in his marriage, I can definitely relate to that, because when I started dating my wife, Dana, I got all the criticism, I got all the ignorant messages here and there, some of which made me very upset, and also the marriage and everything else. But on the other breath of the fresh air was my wife and I hosting a 2015 convention in Las Vegas, where I've seen one person at the elevator at Caesar's Palace saying, "Thank you for doing this. And you showed me that my husband and I, there's also some type of hope that's out there." So when I see the negative side as well as some of the positive side when it comes to interracial marriage like myself, I can definitely understand what you're going through in your department as well. It's just one of those things that, yeah, you have those boxes and it's just unbelievable, but it has to be said. It definitely has to be said.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that and being vulnerable, because that's what it's about, right? Being vulnerable, being willing to speak about these topics that people know about. Some people know about, some just are so far off that they don't. But I feel like some people do know about it and they're just scared to have that conversation. And so stepping out, speaking about the marginalized groups and the issues that come with interracial relationships, with the LGBTQ community, and really just with anybody who's in a marginalized community, is so important.
Exactly. Now, the next question I have for you was, what was your goal when writing your speech and competing? What was the overall goal that you had in mind?
So if you ask anybody who knows me, they'll say I'm competitive. I'm competitive by nature. It's just who I am. I played sports my entire life. So obviously in competition and competing in the World Championship of Public Speaking, the goal is to make it to the final stage and get that first place trophy. Unfortunately, as you and I are both aware, I didn't get quite there. I just think the judges weren't ready to hear the message I was giving, and that is what it is. But the message was still put out, and that's what's important. But as I was going through the stages, it was interesting. Every time I kept advancing, I kept winning. I believe there's 7 different levels, if I'm not mistaken, from club all the way through. And as I kept advancing and they kept calling my name, it was almost like a surprise. And it wasn't because I didn't think that I spoke well or that I did something not so great or that there was somebody who was better. It was always because I knew that by bringing forth this topic, there could be a time that I hit that wall. And unfortunately, I think I hit that wall at the semifinal level, with it being an international level, with the judges could be from anywhere in the entire world. I mean, let's be honest. The judges could have literally been from a country where it's okay to be killed for being gay. So we have no idea, and we don't know, because unfortunately we don't get feedback and we don't really get that information, and hopefully things will change in the future with that. But the competitiveness aside, I still, what drove me through all of that, the uneasiness, the concern, the willingness to be vulnerable and tell the story and put that target on my back, was all for the opportunity to get the story heard, right? In my speech, when I speak about that young man, when I speak about my wife, when I speak about my own journey and my family and our children, it's all about the opportunity for others to hear the story and hopefully affect that positive change. I spoke about it earlier with you, right? I always use the analogy of a closed door.
Yes.
If I could just crack that door just a little bit, and we can open up possible dialogue where we can start changing minds and we can really start affecting change, that's what it's about. And that's what drove me from the start to the end in the entire competition. It wasn't about making it to first place, although that's great. And I'm so honored to have made it where I made it to, but it was never about that. It was always about telling the story, continuing to tell a story. And that's why I'm continuing on with the journey. I'm not stopping here. I'm going to continue telling that story because it needs to be heard.
And I tell you, your semifinal speech reminded me of another semifinal speech of a friend of mine who happens to live in the Las Vegas community. She made it all the way up to the semifinals and got to the semifinals in Orlando, Florida in 2012. And ironically enough, Orlando 2012 was my wife and I honeymoon, since we're both Toastmasters.
There you go.
Exactly. But my friend, they gave a semifinal speech that had me in tears from club level all the way to the semifinals. And it talks about her being sexually assaulted as a young girl. And when you mentioned about the audience not being able to be ready to hear that type of message, I know it's a powerful message like yours. And there's some people out there, and when you deal with that mixture of the judging and everything, and some people are not quite ready for that. And she got about as far as the semifinals, but at the end of the speech, what made a difference for her was she happened to be encountered another lady that was walking up to the front and said, "Thank you for giving that speech. Definitely needed to hear that." If you're able to touch that one life and that one person right there, then it doesn't matter if you get a trophy from the World Championship of Public Speaking. As long as you make that message clear to your audience and right there, then you made a huge difference. And that's what I liked about that speech back in 2012. And that's what I loved about your presentation right now in 2021.
Yes. Yes, that's beautiful. And that's the truth. That's where the difference needs to be made. And I hope that if more people will step out and be willing to give those speeches that really are impactful, that are a little bit edgy, that are willing to step out and be vulnerable, maybe we can change the dynamic where the judges are ready to hear those type of speeches, and we can get more of those speeches to the finals rounds and get more exposure and really get those messages out. That's my hope, in the Toastmasters world. I certainly hope it continues. And, it's been a long battle, right? You spoke of your friend from several years ago. I know this has been going on for many, many years, and we're just chipping away at the ice block. And I hope one day we get to the point where the judges are ready to hear these type of messages.
Hey, let's keep chipping away, because the journey always continues.
Yes.
Now, speaking of which, we talk about journeys. We talk about what your experiences. My question for you is, what will be next in your journey? Where will Samantha Smith go?
Yeah, so let's see. Samantha Smith has a lot going on. So I've been reached out to. You spoke about your friend who was reached out to. You spoke about when you've had interactions. That has been the utmost motivator for me since I gave this speech. So I have to say, after every single level that I've given this speech, at least a handful of people have reached out to me, telling me, sharing their stories with me, telling me that this message needs to be heard, that it's so necessary in the landscape and that we are in right now. I've had people calling me, Jesse, crying on the phone with me, explaining to me that, my niece came out and actually introduced themselves as my nephew, and they're transgender, and I didn't know what to do. And or my daughter, had recently come out and told me that she's a lesbian. All of these stories surrounding the LGBTQIA plus community, and the impact that these folks shared with me, the vulnerabilities, the conversations and dialogue that I've had every single time this speech has aired, and even more so now when it aired on the semifinals. That next morning, I had 2 phone calls, one from Ireland and one from Scotland. These were people who heard the speech and shared with me that they didn't know the things I was telling, right? In the speech, I talk about what happens when we don't hear people, what happens when we don't accept people as they are, as they identify, right? This young man ended up, he lost his life because of it, right? My wife could have lost her life because of it. There's so many, and that's just a minuscule amount of the stories that are out there. And in the conversations I've had since giving the speech, it has trumped any first place, second place, third place award, trophy that you could possibly give me, because those stories are creating the framework and the stairs and the building blocks for us to continue. So where am I going? I'm going to keep telling this story, and I'm going to keep telling it as far as I can go, from one end to the next. I'm doing these type of things, right? We're having conversations where I get to continue to explain what's going on. On top of that, I'll clue you in, and this is the first time I'm saying this public, Jesse. So this is pretty cool. But I'm writing a book. Yeah,
all right.
And so these are things to look forward to. I'm working with a publisher company, and they're amazing. They're an LGBTQIA plus publisher that's all about getting those stories out. I'm about to go speaking at universities across the US and be represented by agencies there to get out and tell their story to our young adults so that they can feel heard, that there's safe spaces for them to speak. And I'm being reached out for speaking engagements, and all of these opportunities, whatever that morphs into, whether that's still giving that same speech, my story never changes, right? Whether it's that story or another one, I stand for what it is. And so there's a lot more coming. There's been amazing conversations and amazing opportunities have arose from this. And again, it's all about being the voice for those who are unable to be heard, whether they're no longer with us or whether they're in an environment where it's not safe for them to be heard. That's what I'm standing for. That's what I'm continuing to spread the message about.
And Samantha, you really had me right here because it's a darn good interview if you get me right here in the heart. And wow, I gotta say that you said a whole lot right there, and you just get me. It just I feel the warmth right there. It's like, oh my goodness. And no, it's not a heart attack, it's not a stroke or anything, but it is just good feeling right in here.
Yeah.
If you're able to do that, then doggone it, this is a darn good interview. And I tell you what, you say people reaching out to you. How can people actually reach out to you?
Yeah, so my website is live. It's www.samanthasmithofficial.com. www.samanthasmithofficial.com. All of my information is posted there. My future speaking engagements are posted there. I have a blog that I just started. It's a little juvenile yet. We're getting it going. I've been pulled in so many ways since all this has started. So I've been a bit busy. I also volunteer on the weekends as a firefighter. So I'm spread a bit thin, but the blog is up and coming. The speech. So if you haven't heard the speech, it's posted there. The YouTube direct link is there. All of my interviews, my podcasts are posted there as well. And of course you can find me on social media as well. But yeah, if you go to the website, that'll plug you into everything that's upcoming for me. Easy way to contact me as well.
All right. And for those people that missed that, do not fret because the link will be in the description right below. So once you're done watching this wonderful interview, just click on the link below and it'll take you right to Samantha Smith's website.
Awesome.
All right. Now, time flies when you're having a whole lot of fun during this interview. And I got to say that you are as good as advertised. And I had a whole lot of fun with you, big time. Now, is there anyone that you would like to give a shout out to for making this wonderful experience, your journey possible?
Yeah. So real quick, I appreciate that, Jesse. Real quick, let me just shout out from the start. So I have to give my first and foremost my shout out to my wife and my kids. They've been with me through this entire journey. Obviously, they've been supporting me. They've been on the hush, right? Hey, I'm competing. Don't make any noise because we're over this virtual world, and keep the dogs quiet. Don't knock on the door, And they've been great dealing with it. The early hours of practicing the speech and recording myself and all that. So really, kudos to them, to my family. I have to give a quick shout out to my brother. My brother is 6 years older than me. He's the one who started my fire in public speaking. He's an entertainer. He goes out and does his thing as well on a different landscape, but he really is what drove me to start public speaking. I competed in high school. I went back and coached when I was in college. And then of course, to shout out Find Your Voice Toastmasters.
Yeah.
That's my club that I've represented through the competition. And they've been great, from the hearing my speech several times to helping with some of the coaching aspects and just representing me and allowing me to represent them, District 56 and all the folks there. So, my family, my brother, and Find Your Voice Toastmasters are definitely my shout outs for sure.
All right. And District 56 Toastmasters, that is Southeast Texas. I believe that is Houston, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Very familiar with that district. Great people over there. Now, this is fantastic. Overall, there are so many people that are watching this, and they're my people. They're called the happy people. And there are so many happy people from all over the world watching this message. And this portion of the interview that I'd like to ask you is the happy people, they're amazed, they're inspired, and they're saying wow to your story and your journey and the inspiration for your speech. If you can offer one more solid words of wisdom to my people, my crew, the happy people, what would it be?
Wow. Jesse, that's loaded. If I could offer one small, I won't say word because I'm never a one-worded person. I'll say my small phrase, right? My small phrase of advice, it would be vulnerable, be courageous, and be heard. We have to be vulnerable in order to be courageous. Most people don't think of that in the same sentence. They say, well, if I'm vulnerable, I'm not courageous. No. There's so much courage in being vulnerable. So be vulnerable so that you could be courageous, so that your voice and your story can be heard. And if you're not in that place that you're available or it's safe to do so, then find somebody who is, that can help you to become safe or to tell your story, right? I feel like I'm the beacon that's telling a lot of the story here, but I'm just one person. So we can reach the world, we can impact that positive change that we talk about. We can be positive, we can be out there and making those changes, making those doors crack open a little bit, starting those conversations. If we're vulnerable, we're courageous, and we have our voice and we can be heard. So Jesse, that's what I'll leave you and your community with for sure.
Oh my goodness, Samantha, you did give it a good interview and with a great person, a great guest like yourself. When one, I feel it right here, and two, I'm starting to feel it right here with the watering of the eyes right now.
I don't want to make any tears. I don't want to make any tears.
Hey, don't worry. It's all about joy and happiness, and that's the thing. And
I appreciate it.
And I tell you what, if you're able to get me right here and right here, then you've done a good job. And on behalf of all the happy people out there, Samantha, I'd like to say thank you for being a guest on the Oak Zone Sunday Morning Chat Series. It's highly appreciated, my friend.
Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate the opportunity. Let's keep spreading that message.
All right. And this concludes this episode of the Sunday Morning Chat Series. If you want more plethora of positivity, go to YouTube, type my name, Jesse Oakley III, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, like, comment, and share these videos. And once you get to my YouTube page, click onto the link of the Sunday Morning Chat Series. You'll get the chance to hear me do past interviews of positive people making a big difference in the community, like my friend Samantha right here. And this concludes this episode of the Oak Zone Sunday Morning Chat Series. Until next time, happy people, you take care and always, always, always have a great day. Bye.